Good morning and welcome. Appreciate you all being here for an update on the state of public safety in Colorado Springs. What I'm calling this press briefing is a mini state of the city, another way to think about it. When I began my administration 3 years ago, I made it clear that public safety would be one of our highest priorities because a safe city is a foundation for everything else. It is the bedrock of economic prosperity, cultural vibrancy, strong neighborhoods, and a high quality of life. Simply put, a safe city is a great city, and a great city is a safe city. But let me be clear, we do not achieve that vision by accident. We achieve it through purposeful leadership, innovation, proactive strategies, and most importantly, the people. Through police officers, through firefighters, through our community partners, and yes, through telecommunicators. This week is National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, a time set aside to recognize a group of public safety professionals rarely in the spotlight, but they are indispensable to our public safety efforts. We actually call them first responders. And I want to say this plainly, I am so damn proud of the women and men across our public safety system who show up every day to serve this community and who in many cases put themselves in harm's way to keep our city safe. And today I am proud to say Colorado Springs is safer today than when I first took office. That is not just a statement. It is backed by real and measurable data that you're about to see today. You're going to see it in our staffing levels as we continue to make steady progress in hiring and supporting our sworn officers. You will see it in our 911 communication center, now at its strongest staffing levels since 2018. You will see it in how we are leveraging technology to multiply our impact through innovations like our drone as a first responder program and our real-time crime command center, giving officers better tools to respond faster and smarter. You will see it in our improved 911 answer times and response times, and calls are now being answered more quickly, and help is arriving faster when it matters most. You will see it in our focus on traffic safety, including increased enforcement to address speeding and keep our roads safer for everyone, especially our young kids. You will see it in our data. Our finalized 2025 crime trends show year over year and even 3-year and a 5-year decline in key categories, including burglary, motor vehicle theft, motor vehicle burglary, robbery, assault, and homicide. The safety of our city is trending in the right direction, and we are delivering results. And that matters because behind every number, behind every data point, is a person, is a family, a neighborhood. Fewer crimes mean fewer victims. Fewer crimes mean safer neighborhoods. Fewer crimes mean a greater sense of peace for everyone. This progress is not random. It is a result of a coordinated strategy where staffing, technology, and enforcement and policy are working together to deliver real outcomes. Whether it's locating a 2-year-old child missing within 2 hours of receiving a call, or targeting repeat offenders who are threatening our neighborhoods or businesses. We are seeing investments in public safety make a tangible difference. And let me be clear, this kind of progress starts with focused, accountable leadership from my office to the police chief and throughout our entire public safety system. Even in the face of economic headwinds, we remain laser focused, making Colorado Springs one of the safest cities in America, a city where families feel safe and our officers feel supported. That is the standard we're working towards every single day. And as I mentioned earlier, the women and men of the Colorado Springs Police Department are at the center of our mission and our success. So I'd like to take just another minute to walk you through the progress on our staffing, and I'm going to invite the police chief to give you an update on our progress in 2025. So when it comes to staffing, we have made clear and purposeful decision to invest in one of our most important assets, of public safety, and that is our people. That means both our sworn officers and 911 professionals. On the sworn side, we have made meaningful progress. Today, we are at 774 officers and on our way to full strength of 839 officers, and that is significant. And we are working towards reaching full strength by the end of my first term. Because more officers mean greater visibility in our neighborhoods. More officers mean more coverage in our city and a stronger ability to respond when our residents need help the most. On the 911 side, we are truly making real progress. We are now at 103 of 113 positions filled, the highest staffing levels we've seen since 2018, and it matters. It means calls are getting answered faster. It means critical information is reaching our officers more quickly, and the entire system is functioning more efficiently right from the very moment of response. Colorado Springs, this is what progress looks like. More people in place, stronger teams, and a more solid foundation to build upon. Now, I want to be clear, as you're going to see this progress, our work is not done. There is still more work ahead, and we will continue to push towards full strength because our residents deserve nothing less. With that, I'd now like to invite Chief Vasquez to walk you through how this progress is showing up in our response time, enforcement efforts, and the data we are seeing across our city. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to spend a little bit of time with you. I'm going to start out by talking about the 911 answer times, and the mayor kind of really hit the nail on the head when we talk about staffing and how important staffing becomes to our response time. And just as a reminder of how we calculate response time. So with our comm center being the largest comm center in this region, we answer a lot of 911 calls and a lot of non-emergent calls. And we have a position called Emergency Response Technician, or ERT. And as soon as that phone call comes into our communications center and that comm center or that ERT picks up that phone, a clock starts. And that starts the response time, and that clock doesn't stop until an officer is on scene. That's how our response times are calculated. So when the mayor talks about that 105 average comm center employee that we've been fortunate to see over the last couple of years, that's one of the reasons that our response times have truly made remarkable progress. You can see on the slides up here for our response times a comparison between 2024 and the orange line, 2025 in the blue line, and then just the short year-to-date as of February in the gray line up top there. Those are tremendous, really, response time or call answer times. When we look at 2025, 86% of 911 calls were answered within 20 seconds. What our goal is that 90% of the time, those 911 calls are answered within 20 seconds. Well, when we look back at 2024, we see that it was 67%. So we've increased or really decreased that time for answering calls from 67% of the time hitting that 20-second mark to 86% of the time. And that is really miraculous because that's when that clock starts. So this is really a great visual of why it's so important that our comm center remain fully staffed or as close to staffing as we can possibly get. So really a good stat there. Now let's talk a little bit about drone as a first responder. Most of you were invited and showed up, quite frankly, at the unveiling of our new drone as a first responder program starting in 2026. But let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to 2025, and just a reminder that in 2025 we only had one drone. We were really still trying to fill out the drone as a first responder program. That drone was sitting on top of the Police Operations Center. Back in 2025, we had 1,423 drone responses with that one drone. And you can see the P1, P2, and 3, they designate priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3 calls. And that's how many of those 1,423 calls went to those priority 1s, priority 2s, and priority 3s. 93 of those calls for service were cleared by a drone as a first responder, meaning that drone got on site within an average response time of 1 minute and 57 seconds and were able to provide information to the comm center and to the officers to indicate, hey, we really don't need an officer on scene here. What we thought was happening isn't happening, or the person's gone. It could be somebody on I-25, for example, walking across, and it's a dangerous situation, but they're long gone. Those kinds of things are really important for us to be able to clear so that our officers are not having to go to that call and they can then go to other calls for service. It's a wonderful depiction of how DFR really started and then where we're going and why it's so important. When we came into 2026, as a reminder, then in January, we increased those drone as a first responder locations across our city to 7 locations. It's been a pretty amazing visual to watch what's happened with those 7 drones. And I'll remind you that in May, we're going to add another 4 drones that are going to help cover the northern part of the city a little bit better, and maybe some other parts of the city that we could actually use 2 drones in. That's how often we're flying. But in 2026, and these numbers are from January 1st to April 14th, our 7 drones are averaging 36 flights a day. That's pretty miraculous. CSPD is the 3rd leading city in the nation. Las Vegas Metro and Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, are the only 2 other cities in the entire nation that are flying drones more often than us. And I'll tell you that Las Vegas, I believe, has somewhere in the neighborhood of like 50 DFRs. We're only 2nd or 3rd behind those 2 agencies. That's how important this program has become to us. Year to date, we've flown 1,997 responses with, again, the Priority 1, Priority 2, and Priority 3 numbers right there. We've decreased the response time just a little bit from 1 minute 57 average to 1 minute 52 average that we're on scene. And 62% of drones, 62% of the time drones are the first on scene. Absolutely amazing. Why that's so important is because our officers are starting to receive information well before they get on scene. They can truly evaluate the situation, the danger level. Our supervisors can understand how many resources they may have thought they needed 5 officers, and they actually only need 2 officers based on that information, or vice versa. 2 officers were sent, and they can see we better send a few more officers. Truly a game changer in how we evaluate our responses. I'm really pleased with the program. All right, let's go to response times. When I talked about the importance of those ERTs in our comm center, remember the response times start as soon as that phone is picked up, and it doesn't stop until an officer's on scene. When you look at Priority 1 response times right there, in 2024, our median response time was 14 minutes and 46 seconds for those Priority 1 response times. Because of the technology, because of how we're doing things right now, we've decreased that to 11 minutes and 34 seconds. Now, I'll be honest with you, there's not a national average. There's not a national number out there that you're supposed to hit because every city is different. Some are 205-ish square miles like Colorado Springs, some are much smaller. So you can't go, there's not a national number out there to hit. But what we would like to see is our officers to get on scene 90% of the time within 10 minutes. We're fairly close to that, 11 minutes and 34 seconds in 2025. So we're going to continue trying to make that progress using our technology and decrease those response times. For Priority 2 responses, in 2024, we were getting there about an average of 25 minutes and 22 seconds, and we decreased that response time in 2025 to 20 minutes and 33 seconds. The more efficient that we get for Priority 1s and 2s especially, those are the types of calls that people may be in danger, either are in danger or may be in danger of injury. When we get down to those Priority 3s, those are going to be damage to property and things like that. We want to get better across the board on all of those response times. But I think in order to decrease those numbers, especially on those Priority 3s, we're going to have more officers on the street, and we're working toward that as the mayor talked about. All right, let's talk a little bit about property crimes. Our property crimes and our persons crimes, we'll get to those here in just a minute. We're seeing really great numbers when we talk about the decreases in crimes. In 2023, this depiction up here for motor vehicle thefts, we'll start with that. It's a 42% decrease from 2025 to 2024. But the reason I want to hit this number really quick is because motor vehicle thefts was something heavily reported on across the nation and certainly in Colorado Springs. And I wanted to give you a number, what that 42% decrease represents. In 2023, we saw 4,357 reported motor vehicle thefts. When we went into 24, we still saw at the end of 2024 3,799 or 91, and in 2025 we decreased to 2,191. Still a big number, but it's a significant decrease, 42% decrease in motor vehicle thefts, and that's pretty miraculous. Our burglary of motor vehicles, somebody breaking into a car and then stealing something, you see the 32% decrease there. That represents from 2023 going from 4,062 burglary of motor vehicles to 25 at 2,590. Again, great numbers and a 19% decrease in our burglaries. So we're seeing really significant changes, decreases in crime and our property crimes. Let's take a look at our persons crimes real quick. In our persons crimes, we've seen a significant decrease in murders. That's a great number, 28% down. Year to date, we're closer to that 80% down. I want to caution that it's still very early, but we're about 80% from year to date numbers from 2026 comparing to this time last year for 2025. Hopefully we won't see that number coming up. For robberies, we're down 13%. For these persons crimes, this really does show a significant decrease across the board on our persons crimes, and those are great numbers that we're seeing. That means people are getting injured less often, so I'm pretty proud of that. Let's talk about traffic enforcement. Traffic tickets are up about 14.5%. When we look at municipal traffic tickets, the increase is about 25%, and we look at a decrease in county traffic tickets. The reason I want to talk about that is not that we're seeing a decrease in tickets. It's an important number because it just shows that our officers, we actually want them writing those tickets into city court versus county court. We made that change about a year ago. We really are starting to enforce that with our officers. That's why you're seeing partly an increase in municipal traffic tickets and a decrease. It's just that we're writing less tickets into county court. But the overall ticket count is up 14.5%. I understand that traffic enforcement is truly one of the issues that we most hear about across our entire city. I think we can all drive the city and see that we need more traffic enforcement. Working on getting more motors out there to do those enforcements is a big piece of it. Getting our officers more time to do more traffic enforcement is big. But also, our technology plays a good role in it, right? So let's take a look at our speed safety cameras. I think this was a big deal. We started speed safety cameras fairly recently here. Year to date, from January 12th to March 31st, you'll see that we have 7,169 violations that the speed safety cameras captured. Of those, 3,250 were in school zones and 3,919 were in neighborhood and parks. It's a little bit too early to see. It's got to go through a process to see what the percentage of those are getting paid and that kind of thing. It takes about 90 days for a process to go through on a ticket. But those are really significant numbers, and it truly is bridging the gap between people and technology, helping us with traffic enforcement along with Photo Red program, really a benefit to us. So I'm looking forward for year-end data. Let us have a year with those speed safety cameras, figure out where best to place them, and I think we're going to see some significant improvements with those. And with that, I think that's what I have, Mayor.
I was going to see, could you stay up there for a second? Actually, the mayor maybe can answer this. On this stat right here, could this be a big revenue booster for the city? Since you're getting more of the cameras and everything else, taking in more tickets?
That's a great question. I actually appreciate that question because you're clearly aware of our revenue challenges at the city. The intent of these programs is not necessary to build revenue for the city, and the intent is to enforcement. The mission is to keep our community safe. Of course, from a fiscal responsibility perspective, our intent is always to break even, and any extra money that comes out of this will be invested in more technology to keep our city safe. But by no means is this program a revenue generator for the city. I'm looking at my CFO here and see if she has anything to add, or, okay, she gave me the nod. That means, Mayor, you answered this correctly.
How this car? I don't know what it's called. How often is it deployed? Is it every day? Is it 8 to 5 all day long? I mean, I don't know the.
We are deploying those on a Monday through Friday basis. Right now we have 2 cars, 2 vehicles that have the equipment. And just kind of as a reminder, remember that there are only 3 primary areas that we're using them. Our first priority is our school zones. Right. So when you see Monday through Friday, the early morning when people are going, or kids are going to school, and then after when parents are picking school kids up or they're walking home, those speed school safety zones are the ones that we're really prioritizing. But then they can move around to those neighborhoods or streets near parks. That's the primary areas that we're also looking at. That's why those stats that we show up here, neighborhood and parks, become really important. And we'll look at it. Mayor and I can talk after several months and evaluate the need for maybe additional ones.
As a parent of young kids in the school system, the emphasis on school zone means a lot to me, not just as mayor, but as a parent, and I know many families in our community. What is tickets and enforcement have gone up 800%, or something of it is something like it is quite a big number, and so nothing matters more than the safety of our kids. And I talk a lot about being a city of great neighbors and great neighborhoods. So with our limited resources, the first priority is going to be our school zones in our neighborhoods. And like Chief said, we will assess as more funding, Lord willing, we get out of this funding challenge, we'll assess and see where else in the city to place those investments. Brandon? Yeah.
No, I just had can I follow up?
Yes.
In about 5 weeks, school's out. Maybe 6 weeks. What's the plan for that after when schools are out?
Well, once school's out, we still have 3 areas that we can deploy them in. We can still go in the neighborhoods and neighborhood streets surrounding parks, and then construction zones. Those are the 3 areas that they're still going to be very useful. And I know Colorado Springs Utilities, for example, has a lot of construction going on. Our streets projects are happening across the city. And those construction zones can be very dangerous for those workers that are out there. So there's going to be an absolute need for them. And those are the areas that they're deploying in now. We'll just expand that to the time that school is no longer in.
As you mentioned, you want to be full strength when it comes to officers on the street by the end of your term. Do you have an update on the status on the new CSPD training facility?
So what used to be thank you for that question, by the way, because it brings me back to how I kicked off my administration. I came right. One of my first decisions was asking the voters to see if they'd be willing, the residents, if they'd be willing to allow the city to retain those dollars for a much needed police training academy. The residents said no, but what has come out of that has been this greater vision for not just a new training academy, but a center for public safety excellence that brings in police, fire, Office of Emergency Management, that brings in the county, and there's a lot of interest from our military partners. And so as you can imagine, that project is a much bigger scale. It's needed. I do want us to be best in class in the nation. We have looked at other communities. We visited the similar project in the city of Atlanta. And we're working with not just city partners, but also private partners who understand development. And there is a land that has been committed. The city doesn't own it, but we have partners that are willing to donate land for that project. And it's going to bring all these public safety excellence partners together. And the other update you should know is too that we have done some initial renderings and design around what that new center will look like, and then we've already broken down into different phases. As you can imagine, funding is the biggest challenge to break ground, but we are looking at different funding mechanisms that is not just limited to the city proper, but to other opportunities as well. Ryan, is there anything else you'd like to update on that? Okay, my Deputy Chief of Staff, Ryan, and my Police Chief, Chief Vasquez, are at the helm of that work. Let's go with Brandon, and then, yeah.
What are some of the reasons you would identify for some of those drops in crime, especially when it comes to the big drops for vehicle theft and burglaries?
What was the question? Some of the
reasons why there's been that drop for motor vehicle thefts and burglaries.
I'm happy to answer that. One of the things I'm really proud of, man, and I'm feeling emotional. I don't even know why, because this is not an emotional question. But one of the things I'm really so proud of Chief Vasquez and the team is their ability to rearrange, think innovative, not just be stuck on we don't have the money. And you're going to see that across the department. Yes, we don't have the money, but how can we take a fresh look at the things that we are doing? You're going to see that with even our homeless response as we move to 24/7 coverage, and why we are combining the downtown area response team and the homeless outreach program. But when it comes to the drop in motor vehicle theft, it's our ability to look at the data and to see where the main problem points are. And if we can put our energy and target the repeat offenders or the prolific offenders, you can see a drop in those numbers. So it's approaching things and not just working super hard, but working smart. And that's what you're going to see a common theme with the team. They're working smart, they're being creative, and of course we need more money. More money will even help those numbers drop even further. But what you're going to see from my team is just working very smart in terms of how we can maximize output with limited resources. Chief, do you want to add anything else to that?
I think that pretty much hit on that. I can expand more if you'd like. But
would you like him to expand more? Yes, please, come.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the mayor is exactly right. Looking smartly at data and utilizing our resources. One of the things that we did about 2 years ago maybe is we took all of our proactive teams. So our robbery team, our motor vehicle theft team, our violent offender unit, those teams that are out there truly investigating in a proactive way those types of crimes. And what we found is that they're oftentimes targeting the same people, but they were in different parts of the organization, literally physically sitting someplace that other teams weren't. We brought them all together from an intelligence-led policing perspective, put them under one roof with our intel analysts. Our intel analysts, to the mayor's point, that data-driven approach, we're able to point them all together to hotspots within the city, and we're able to look at prolific offenders, either individuals or groups that were out there, for example, 3 o'clock in the morning canvassing parking lots and stealing 3 or 4 cars. We found that if we could center the crime on the team and and focus that particular crime to one team versus all teams maybe hunting the same group or individual to arrest them, and not knowing they were each looking at the same person, we found that we were able to go after more prolific offenders. Once we saw that we were taking these groups into custody, we would see those dips in that particular type of crime. And then you could see in the trend, as soon as they got out of jail, as soon as they weren't held anymore and they were back on the streets, you could see those trends hit back up and those numbers increase. And so by being able to proactively target those individuals or those groups, we saw that we were able to impact those crime levels. And I'm sure there are other factors on national trends that work into that. There's some legislative stuff that impact, but that's generally the approach that we've taken.
It's been about a year since recreational marijuana sales started in Colorado Springs, according to the Colorado Cannabis Alliance. You've taken in $3.8 million in taxes. What is the money being used for? Did it fund the Fire Academy?
Yeah, the Fire Academy is one of the deliverables with those funding. I'm looking at Pat Rigdon, our former Deputy Chief of Police, who is with the Downtown Partnership. They're another recipient of some of those funding, $700,000 for the Downtown Clean and Safe program. I'd say ultimately we're tracking what's coming in, and we are executing based off the will of the voters, and that is public safety, mental health, and also post-traumatic stress disorders are the focus of what the voters have said the funding should be used for, and we are delivering on those.
So it sounds like, do you support the sale of recreational marijuana now in Colorado Springs?
The funding is definitely helping our city. Yes.
I have a question for Chief Vasquez.
Yes,
Thank
please.
you, Mayor Mobilade.
Yeah.
This week we did a report on 77-year-old Deanna Stemler, and she passed away after a crash. Suspected street racers hit her head on. What is CSPD doing to stop these street racing, and what are any targeted operations that will likely be happening to help this? Because since we put that out, viewers have just been reaching out saying, Briargate Boulevard, Powers, like they're a street racing hotspot. So what is your department doing?
No, thank you for that question. And this has been an issue across the city for quite some time, right? We've seen street racing as a problem. We have a lot of open area in the city. It's such an expansive city. So it is something that we see quite often. At CSPD, we have somebody that falls within our Specialized Enforcement Division Bureau, a lieutenant that really puts together operations when we can to proactively approach street racing. One of the things I'm really excited about here as we kind of change how we're doing things up, the mayor talked about always thinking about innovation. We now have drones across the city, right?
I was about to mention that.
And so what we're seeing as a different approach is that we can now pop a drone up and we can start handing that drone or that street racing group off to different drones so we can sort of enforce it in a safer manner. Oftentimes what happens when an officer gets behind somebody who's street racing is that they run from us. That creates a very dangerous situation for our city, for our people that are out there just driving, trying to get to a restaurant or trying to get home. And so our policy is that we're not going to pursue unless it's a violent crime. But now with the drones, we have another option so that we'll start seeing that come into play as we go into this summer. So I'm excited to see how that helps us out. But we do operations when we can. We need more officers to be able to do more of them and do that type of enforcement. But I think we're doing a decent thing.
I'd like to add to that. Traffic safety is probably one of the biggest feedback we hear from our residents. We talk about adding more officers. When we talk about adding technology, and I know sometimes there's pushback because of privacy and Big Brother watching, I want our residents to hear this clearly. We have no interest in your personal lives. But when we talk about ability to keep our city safe, things like drones, license plate readers, that is why we have these technology, because it gives us the ability to identify those who are committing this crime, making our community unsafe, and address it quickly. And that is the heart of our public safety technology. And this is a message I want our residents to hear. That is why this mayor is going to continue to push for technology. When you ask questions about street racing and drag, I get those phone calls too, and technology helps us respond as quick as possible. Yes.
I've got 2 quick questions.
Okay.
How has the investment in policing changed over the past couple of years?
Well, if you're tracking our budget situation, should correct me if I get this numbers right. My first year, 2023, the budget that was approved in 2022 was a $9 million shortfall. I don't know what years, but I'll tell you, it's 9 million, 11 million, 4 million. I'm getting the years all mixed up, and then we had to find $31 million savings. So you can see that the heart of the story is that we've had to double down on efficiency, but we have, at the end of the day, prioritized public safety. And my team, my 3,000 person team, gets a lot of kudos for this because it means other departments have had to say, we're going to have a much smaller budget so that we can preserve public safety. So regardless of our budget situation or realities, you will see that police and fire are still prioritized. And so I guess the answer to your question is we've maintained investment in public safety. It doesn't mean they've not taken a hit. Everybody's taken a hit across the board. But when you look at its numbers, we've worked hard to preserve the safety of our community. What's your second question?
since LETAC is in the midst of being dissolved, and part of the reason it's being dissolved was their indirect relationship with the police force and with your office, are you working with city council? Are you working to get another group together or another method for accountability and transparency to the police, especially as the force is growing?
Yeah, and I first of all want to thank the commissioners for their role, past, current, and because the heart of what those commissioner wants is the heart of what my chief of police and I want. So I'm thankful for their leadership. I'm thankful for even how they came to this decision, is ask the question whether or not this group is still needed. What I'd like to remind our residents is the work that we have been doing, frankly, that predates my time in office. I have a police department that is always looking to be when he says we're the third in the city, in the nation in terms of drone, we have a commitment to being the best in class. We're not waiting to be told. So from the Transparency Matters survey that was independently done by the police department, that is all about transparency. That report is available and accessible to the public. You can see the areas that we're strong in. You can see the areas that we're weak in. We're not waiting for a body to tell us. We've hired professionals independently to tell us what areas that we need to. They've even met with our officers. And we know that 80% of our officers are asking for more training, for de-escalation. You can see how a lot of our strategy is a direct reflection on the report that we've received. We hired another company, the PERF, Executive Forum, and they're now helping us, one of the first in the nation to learn jiu-jitsu. Our officers have been trained in jiu-jitsu as a de-escalation strategy. That way we don't have to use force every time, and we will use force when needed. So that's one aspect of the story. The second aspect of the story is the number of community advisory groups and community members like LETAC that my chief of police meets with on a regular basis. Whether it's the Youth Advisory Council from our young people giving us feedback, to our faith-based community, to the NAACP. So you can see that there is a lot of conversation happening with so many community groups. And one of the options I've put on the table is how do we repurpose for what the commissioners that want to stay engaged with my police department. We can bring them into one of these existing groups, or I'm willing to start a new advisory group of some of those members to ensure that the lines of communication remain completely open with our police department. So I end with, at the end of the day, it's what problem are we trying to solve? And when I look at our police department, we're doing a lot of the work that LETAC is asking of us that is already taking place. And by the way, this is just a little personal anecdote, and maybe Chief is tired of hearing this. Many of you that know my story would know that I moved to the city as a pastor. That's how I met Chief Vasquez years ago as a commander. I was part of a faith-based group that they would meet with on a regular basis, and we were one of the first, this faith-based group was one of the first groups in the community that I'm looking at Pat Rigdon too, he was part of that group, that they introduced the faith community to the new body cams. They told us why, they showed us some videos, and we got to see body cams ahead of body cams becoming a community-wide thing. That tradition has been going on for a long time, and we get to strengthen that tradition moving forward.
We talked a little bit about technology and how it's helping the officers, and you also mentioned the whole Big Brother aspect too. Would the city support a public review or pause of the use of flock cameras if the community were to have increased concerns?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to invite Chief to help me answer this. One of the answer to that question is not necessarily what the community wants. We're always going to listen to the community, and that feedback is going to help shape my decision, our decision, and in many ways tweak it. I want to be clear that the use of technology is what our community needs. AI, innovation is where we're going. We live in a proud military community, and our military partners are leading the way. I have military veterans here. If you ever go to any of the command centers, you would see the use of technology to keep our country safe and why we're leading the way globally. One of the things I'm proud, again, of my police department, to the last question, we did not wait for the community to ask us to audit our own processes. We're doing that. We've asked the city auditor to take an independent look of our use of technology, and that work is going on right now. Chief, do you want to speak into that?
Thanks, Mayor. And let me kind of back up just a little bit and just kind of a reminder. First of all, just from the technology perspective, we're no longer using flock cameras themselves, right? So we've moved away from Flock, the company. We are using Axon license plate reader cameras, and I think that's really the heart of your question, those license plate reader type of technologies. To the mayor's point, we are doing these audits. We've been very, very transparent. We've invited the media in every time we've increased technology. And as a reminder, you can go onto our website. For example, you can look at every single drone flight that we take. You can click on our technology and learn about the license plate reader technology or all the body-worn cameras. All the technologies were incredibly visible to our community, to include our policies. You can go onto our website and look at our policies and see exactly what we can and can't do. But also we have constitutional protections, not only the U.S. Constitution, but the Colorado Constitution that allows or disallows search and seizure, unlawful search and seizure. We have a lot of protections in place. There's laws that we have to comply with on how long we can keep technology, how long we can keep a video, for example. So we are incredibly visible to our public, very transparent in the use of our technology.
Even the flight patterns.
Even the flight paths. You can see exactly how long the flight took and where it is on every single flight, our drone as first responder call or flight. So our community has the ability to see exactly what we're doing. We're very open about that. And I think that speaks volumes to how we're using the technology, to the ability of the police department. To the mayor's point, we have a lot of things to do. The last thing we want to do is sit there and see what's happening on Tejon Street just because we're bored. That isn't happening. So hopefully that answered your question.
Going off of that, sorry, doesn't someone have to call it in for the drone to actually go out to the call? Or because when it comes to street racing, would you be doing proactive kind of policing on that, or should residents call it in, just so we can let our viewers know?
Yeah, it's a great question. When we get those calls in, of course, then we're going to fly on the calls that are appropriate to fly on. If we're having some calls, like I mentioned, that are really low in priority, we can clear those calls oftentimes without sending an officer to it. But we do have proactive enforcement. When I talked about intelligence-led policing, those proactive units all under one umbrella, there are operations across our city happening every single day. And for us to be able to use the drones on those operations, we know for example, we know that we have a felon that's committed a lot of violent crimes. We want to make sure we're doing this in a safe manner. We'll get that drone up and help our officers stay out of the area and watch what's happening, providing that feedback and really making it a much more safe operation. So we do them outside of call for service also.
Thank you.
Question on the budgets. The marijuana money paid for the academy for the fire department. Obviously, we're only 4 months in, but we got to start thinking about budgets for next year. Is there a plan for police and fire academies next year? How many, and how are you going to fund it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to invite my CFO to help me answer this question as well. Or she might go, you're fine. This is April. The challenge of our budget process is our budget process starts as early as June. Is that correct? Or maybe we're ready to, yeah. And we only have 2 months worth of data from this year, January and February. So you can see where I'm going. How do you make a decision for all of 2027 with only 2 months of data points? It's an art and a science. And so are those conversations happening? They are. Do we know exactly which way we're going to go? Not yet. But we start having those conversations early. And that is, that is as early as this morning. we're talking about that. So that's a great question. We're paying attention to the signs of the times and the macroeconomic factors. I was sad to hear that consumer sentiment is low again. Of course, that makes me nervous. I'm watching the news like a hawk. I have the news. This is probably TMI as I'm taking a shower. My wife is like, "Really? You can't get a break from the news." But partly it's because I'm just hungry to know the job reports, the economic report, because I know the impact it has on this community, especially being in a community where 60% of our revenue source is truly connected to the state of the economy. So we're watching, we're paying attention, and the most important message you're going to hear, regardless of the budget situation, we will prioritize the safety of our community for the things I said earlier, that a great city is a safe city. Yeah.
Do you plan on having academies next year?
I mean, the plan is, yes, we would like to have academy, but I can't confirm what exactly specific budget decisions. So from an overall perspective, we talked about the need for more people. I clearly said that people are most important asset. So we will prioritize people. My hope and plan is to have more academies, but it's too soon to know to make that specific decision with only 2 months of data points. Yes, Brendan.
One more question.
Well, let's do 2 more.
All right, 2 more questions.
Yeah.
I know there's been some discussion before about trying to increase the public safety sales tax. Is that something that might be coming up in November, or any other similar tax measures to kind of help increase some of that police funding?
Yeah, I'm impressed that you're staying engaged and connected. Yes, this is conversations that we've been having with my administration. These are conversations we've been having in partnership with City Council. What I love about those conversations that I'd say mostly the 10 of us your elected members were on board with a need for a potential sales tax initiative. But the data has shown us that the appetite is not there right now. So no, we would not be going to the ballot anytime soon, because the number one issue, so back to the previous question, you need to know the number one issue from the last polling we have seen is inflation. So Americans and Colorado Springs residents are worried about their pocketbooks. That doesn't mean they don't care about the safety of the community, but right now, the pocketbooks is the most important thing. Yes.
I have a really quick question. Did I hear you say the city is no longer using flock cameras?
It's
Correct. Yeah, so we went, the press conference we did unveiling Axon, the technology that we were going to, through contract agreements, we were able to get a lot more cameras through flock, or through Axon than flock, so we decided to go to Axon. That's the only reason we went to Axon. Went away from flock, went to Axon. Still licensed plate reader scanners though. Yep.
As I conclude, I want to end from where I started, and I'm seeing some partners around. Pat Rigdon, the former deputy chief of the police department, who's now head of the security operations at Downtown Partnership, among many other things. We cannot do our work without great partners like Downtown Partnership. We're looking at a similar model at South Nevada, so stay tuned in terms of the Kick-Ass program. But I'm closing with the fact that I meant it from day one, that public safety is and will remain a top priority for my administration. Now, we've talked a lot about what we do, city government. I also want to be clear, we do this work with great partners in the community who are working with our youth, who are working with the neighborhoods, who are working to prevent gang violence. And so we give them a lot of credit as well. But back to city government, every decision, whether it's budgetary or strategic, from staffing to technology to enforcement, will continue to guide the work ahead. And because of that work, we are seeing real progress. And Colorado Springs is a safer city today because of my police department and my fire department today than when I first took office. So we're going to stay focused, which is the word of the year, and we're going to keep investing in our people, and we're going to continue to strengthen our approach to data, innovation, and technology. That is a standard. That is a commitment. Thank you all for being here.